Welcome to the cozy story bed, and thank you for joining me tonight. This is your time to relax and unwind. Let the day melt away as you settle in for a peaceful night's sleep. As we settle in together, let the world around you slow down. With each breath, you're one step closer to a restful night's sleep. Tonight's story is waiting for you. So close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and let's journey together into a world of dreams. In a distant land, where the trees whispered secrets to the wind and the stars shone brighter than anywhere else, there was a hidden village called Eldermere. Few travelers ever reached it, for it lay beyond the endless woods, where wolves howled at the moon and ancient trees stood like guardians of time itself. In this quiet village, there lived a pianist named Elias. He was an old man, his hair silver like the mist that curled over the hills each morning. His hands, though wrinkled, still danced over the keys of his beloved piano, a grand instrument that had once belonged to his grandfather. The villagers rarely heard music, for there were no orchestras in Eldermere, no theaters, no grand halls, but Elias played for them. He played when the rain fell softly on the rooftops. He played when the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting golden rays over the valley. And on nights when the wind howled through the trees, he played the saddest songs, as if trying to calm the restless spirits of the forest. But there was a secret that only Elias knew. Long ago, when he was just a boy, a traveler had come to Eldermere. A woman with eyes like the deepest lake and a voice that carried sorrow and wisdom. She had gifted him an old book of forgotten melodies, saying, "Music is not only heard, but felt. Play it with your soul, and it will guide you to what is lost." Elias had studied that book every day, learning the melodies of the old world. He had mastered them all, except for one. The last melody had no notes written on the pages, only a single sentence. "Play this when the time is right, and the lost will find their way home." For years, Elias wondered what it meant. Was it a riddle, a spell, or simply the ramblings of a long-forgotten composer? Then, one winter, a young girl named Leora arrived in Eldermere. She was quiet, with dark curls and curious eyes, and she carried only a small satchel. She did not say where she had come from, only that she had been walking for days through the snow. The villagers, kind-hearted as they were, took her in, offering food and shelter One night, as Elias played in the village square, Leora stood in the crowd, her hands trembling. "That song," she whispered. Elias paused, looking up from the piano. "Do you know it?" She nodded slowly. "My mother used to hum it when I was little." Elias felt a chill. The song he had played was from the book, the same book the traveler had given him long ago, the same book that had led him here to this moment. That night, Elias sat before his piano, staring at the last page of the book. "Play this when the time is right." Was now the time. With a deep breath, he placed his fingers on the keys and played. The melody was unlike anything he had ever heard before. Soft as falling snow, deep as the forest's silence, yet filled with something else, something ancient, something powerful. The very air seemed to shimmer. The wind outside paused. The stars seemed to lean closer. And then Leora gasped. A glow surrounded her, faint at first, then growing brighter. Memories rushed back to her, memories she had long forgotten. She saw her mother's face, her laughter, the home she had lost. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I remember," she whispered. Elias understood now. The melody was a bridge between the lost and the past, a song to bring them home. And so, the village of Eldermere gained not only a pianist, but a girl who had found her way back to where she belonged. From that night on, Elias and Leora played together. Their music filled the village, wrapped around the old trees, and traveled through the winds, carrying warmth to every lost soul who wandered the world. And so, in the heart of the silent woods, the piano never stopped singing. Good night, dreamer. Sleep well.